All right, carrying on with my sexual deviation series. We spoke about homosexuality in the last video, and I mentioned that there are spirits involved. There are thoughts involved, which are spirit embedded. There are embedded spirits involved within the thoughts that you have explored. In which case, I mentioned you need to understand the spirit within you and how you can work with God to assist you. Understand the spirit within you so you can understand how it is that you got to where you are, what has influenced you, and what you can do about it. You can still make a choice. Nothing is set in stone. You can still choose the right path. Concerning the last video, you can still choose the right path. In this one, I'm going to explore other sexual avenues that have come up, but the church does not necessarily address. We tend to find that many families, and I've noticed that even in the States statistically, a lot of black families are also involved in sexual misconduct between elders or older people and children or younger kids or people or children or women or girls, sometimes boys as well, who are unable to protect themselves. They are taken advantage of. They are taken advantage of. Many of these situations, one can and should express that there is sickness involved somewhere. There is a lack of control somewhere. There is a lack of appreciation of humanity, a lack of understanding concerning what those actions can and will do irreparable damages to those who are involved. There is no care, there is no love when this is involved. That you take advantage of a minor or a child who's unable to protect themselves. It is not okay. It never has been, never will be. Now, there is also the situation where older men are finding themselves addicted, and this is genuine to younger girls, girls who are not of age as yet. Now, once again, there is some sickness involved in many of these situations. We cannot avoid that. But more often than not, and this is now assuming to be the situations or circumstances outside of cults or outside of societies that blend this within their practices. Because I do know that there are certain cults, societies, people groups that conduct themselves in this manner for whatever beliefs that they have or whatever they've been taught. Those situations are just evil. And I wouldn't even consider that in my series, but I understand that it is there. In this, I'm exploring normal men or women as well, because even the Lord is saying the women also have similar attributes, but perhaps they are not as widely reported on, that they are attracted to younger men or men who are not yet of age sexually. It is there. Perhaps just the media does not cover it as much or it does not come out or up as much, but it is there almost as much as the men who have been conducting or misconducting themselves with younger women, ladies who are not of sexual age as yet, and even some who are just barely over the limit or the restrictions concerning consensual age, ages of consent. I know the ages of consent are different worldwide, but regardless, the younger a person is, the more reluctant one should engage with them in a sexual manner because their minds have not appreciated the means, the value, and the meaning of being sexually explorative or conducting themselves in a sexual nature. They do not fully understand their engagement or what it means to actually engage with somebody sexually. So they're too young of age to understand what it is that they're doing. I would put that from 16 and below, that they will not be able to fully grasp what it means to mature into those types of things. So anybody that is conducting themselves with anybody of that age and younger, it is wrong. And even the church needs to begin to address these things, because I know that many within the church as well are misconducting themselves with these young women, sometimes within their own families as well, which go unreported because of taboos, because of how the society would see them, and they know it is wrong. Beyond the fact that it is a sickness, many of them understand and know that what they're doing is wrong, but they still propel themselves in that direction. It is a lack of self-control. And I will begin with that spirit: self-control, self-worth, understanding of self, understanding of how your actions can impact on somebody else's future, not taking the repercussions of your actions into consideration. Those types of things need to be addressed. Self-control needs to be addressed. Sexual desires that go beyond what is expected of you also needs to be addressed, particularly with the church. It seems like the church is missing it, or missing an opportunity to address these scenarios. I will begin to say, if anybody is conducting themselves with these minors who are not of age, it is wrong. There's no two ways about it. But I need to explore also now the spirits behind it, the influence of these situations. I should and would begin to say many of these things are environmental. The environment that the perpetrators grew up in have influenced many of these decisions that they make. The things that they're exposed to sexually, whether it is movies, porn in particular, or if they themselves were also victims, that must also be taken into consideration, or just a lack of self control concerning one's sexual desires is also a culprit in many of these scenarios. They all begin in the mind. The mind is a birthing place of much of this evil, and it is in the mind where it needs to be resolved and set straight. So if you know somebody who is in this scenario, or even if you yourself, you need to get them help, or you need to get yourself help. They need to realign their thoughts and realize that there are repercussions to the thoughts. They begin with their thoughts. If they can deal with their thoughts, understand how wrong they are, understand the repercussions thereof, understand their self-worth and the worth of those whom they are about to harm or will harm or have harmed, they may also then begin to understand repercussions and thoughts, and how wrong thoughts can mislead us and take us to a place where we shouldn't be, in the wrong direction. It is very evident, quite evident, might I say, that today's society, sexually exploratively, we are misleading each other and we're going down the wrong paths. So if you are in this framework, get help. Or if you know somebody, get help. And do not excuse, if it is a family member that you know of, do not excuse their behavior. Do actually report them if it is possible, because it will be for their own good to ensure that they do not harm themselves or anybody else going forward. We need to begin to address these sexual misconducts at an early age, from an early stage, to realign people and assure them that certain desires are not from God, and certain desires cannot help them, will not assist them, and should not be developed or followed just because they believe it is their own thoughts and they can have their thoughts that they want, does not mean that they have the right to engage or grow those thoughts. They need to realize that there are limitations to what is free will or one's free ability to choose and to think freely. There are limitations, and there should be limitations. There should be boundaries. We should allow ourselves to have those boundaries, that we cannot just explore openly just because it is our minds and our bodies, and we have the ability to do so. It is okay to have boundaries. It is okay to have limitations. It is okay to be conservative. Once again, I know in today's society we are commanded to be explorative, to explore our desires and to engage with them. But we need to also begin to understand that these engagements, these very engagements, have taken many down the wrong paths and very dark paths. And it is a dark path for older men or people who are of maturity to be engaging with thoughts to begin with, and then actions thereafter with minors or people who have no power to prevent them from being explorative or from being abused or from being taken advantage of. It is not okay to take advantage of anybody, even if that person is of mature age. If they do not consent, it is not right. When we're speaking about rape in this situation, it is not right for you to go down that route. There must be consent, and there must be understanding of the consent. There must be consent, and there must be understanding of that consent. No coercion, no sugar coating it, no misleading people, no taking advantage of people's minds, mindsets, whatever the case may be. We need to understand that we're doing damage to our children, and even us in the adult years have been damaged by the things that we have been exposed to the directions that we have explored, the thoughts that we've allowed ourselves to think. We have damaged our thoughts. We have damaged our mindsets. And we need to realize that there is a limit to free will, even with thoughts. Not every thought should be explored. Not every avenue, particularly sexually, should be looked into just because of desire, just because of curiosity, just because the world is open to it. We need to limit ourselves. Set boundaries for yourself. Set boundaries for your relationships. Set boundaries within our societies so that we can begin to see a line and know when we have crossed it. So that we can begin to see a line and know when we have crossed it. Now, obviously, I wouldn't even go further, but I would just explore the concept also of having sexual thoughts, desires, inclinations with animals, inanimate objects, and anything of that nature that you know is not natural. You need to begin and realize that they're not natural and step aside from it and step away from those directions. We need to have limitations. We need to have self control. Be blessed.